Hello, you beautiful nerds. The newest film from Rian Johnson has made its way to Netflix after spending an inexplicably short period of time in theaters. I mean, people actually wanted to see this one in theaters, and for some reason, it was only in theaters for like a couple weeks. I know, because I was one of those people who wanted to see it in theaters. And I missed it. But now it's on everyone's favorite streaming service that they don't actually pay for. And I wanted to chat about it with you guys. Mainly because Knives Out was the very first review I did on this channel. It was the week of Thanksgiving, and instead of hanging out with my family like I should have, I drunkenly made a dumb little video on my phone and released it to the masses. And thus, the Drunk Banthas was born. Hey, there's an Avenger in this movie. Anyway, with all that being said, it felt a little weird not to review the sequel. I liked Knives Out, but it was not my favorite of Rian Johnson's. I enjoyed it, but it's probably my least favorite film of his. I mean, I adore his style of writing and directing, but I wasn't a huge fan of Knives Out. At the end of this video, I'll rank my favorite Rian Johnson films. That's what we call a teaser in showbiz. Sorry, I just watched Babylon and I'm just... wow, well, at least this movie's better than that. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about what we're talking about. So pour yourself a glass of Jared Leto's hard kombucha and let's have a chat about... So this film follows the continued adventures of Benoit Blanc. Bored during COVID lockdown with only his husband Hugh Grant and online gaming to keep him entertained, Benoit receives a mysterious package inviting him to a sort of super rich murder mystery dinner party among friends. I mean, not his friends, but everybody else is friends with each other. It's all orchestrated as a fun game by its host, Eddie Norton. But when a dead body turns up, it becomes more clear why the world's greatest detective has been summoned to this island. The story and tone are similar to the first Knives Out. It's a kind of silly send-up to Clue with a bunch of wacky characters, all with motivation to kill, stuck in one place while a mystery is to be solved. And also like Knives Out, it's all about the super stacked cast. Hey, there's an Avenger in this movie. As I talk more about the characters, I'm going to be getting into spoilers, so come back if you don't want anything ruined. Though I liked the cast, there were a few weak links in the chain, so to speak. If you've been watching this channel for a while, which statistically you probably haven't, but if you have, you know that one of my biggest pet peeves in movies is bad accents. And even worse, bad Southern accents. Janelle Monáe was okay in this movie. I really like Janelle Monáe as an actress. She was great in Moonlight. Probably her best performance. You know what wasn't her best performance? Fucking this movie. She had some funny moments, but for the most part, I feel like she was miscast. Speaking as someone who grew up in Alabama, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide!
And as someone who met a lot of women who grew up in Alabama, I must say, this accent is booty.
Hey. Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Miles suddenly found the napkin written in his handwriting and did all those interviews about it.
A bald-faced fabrication.
That shit is terrible. Hey, star of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and fellow Alabamian Glenn Howerton, back me up on this.
That is an accent that I still hear actors do when they play Southern people, that it just does not exist anymore. It is not an accent that actually exists in a real human being. No one talks like that. They play that sort of genteel Southern gentleman who talks like this. And it's like, dude, there hasn't been a gentleman in the South who talks like that since the fucking 1920s. I'm not even talking about the extremeness of the accent. There are people in the South that have very strong accents. They just don't sound like that.
I mean, is there no such thing as a Southern dialect coach? Can we start sending these people to the Holly Hunter, Matthew McConaughey, Taraji P. Henson School of Dialect, which is a thing that I just made that up. I did like Benoit Blanc in this one. I mentioned in my Knives Out review that his New Orleans accent is a bit much, and it's still not great. I did like his performance overall more in this film, though. I feel like we got a little bit more of his personality, though that might just be because the ensemble was so perfectly cast in the first time around, and it kind of overshadowed his performance. And in this movie, there are a few characters that are pretty forgettable. Lionel, played by Leslie Odom Jr., is so incredibly boring. His character is just that he's the only one who's not terrible. What's up with that? That's not fun. Get him out of here. He literally, I don't think he has a single funny moment in the whole movie. Then there's, what's her name? I'm looking it up now. I can't. Then there's Madeline Klein, who plays Whiskey. I found it. She was also boring. She kind of just came off as the one-note hot chick of the film, which I would blame on the writing, but then there's someone like Kate Hudson who had a similar character but was way funnier. Hudson was absolutely sensational. Clearly the MVP of this movie. MVP. And not just because of that orange bikini, though that I mean, she stole every scene. I especially liked her scenes with Jessica Henwick. Henwick has weirdly been typecast into playing the "are you crazy? You can't do that" character a lot. This is like the 4th time she's played this kind of character. This is the best of that archetype that she's gotten to play though. Hudson was actually the only one who blew me away in this one. I'm obsessed with Kathryn Hahn too, but her character was also a little blasé. And I'm kind of over funny Batista. I much prefer him in dramatic roles. He's not as naturally funny as someone like John Cena. The only time I found him funny in the Guardians movies is when he's basically doing a Tommy Lee Jones impression and taking himself so seriously that it's hilarious. But I don't think you can throw this guy in a movie and expect him to whip up something hysterical like John Cena. Not to compare him to another wrestler turned actor, but they have different strengths. Cena doesn't belong in a Denis Villeneuve movie, and I don't think Batista belongs in movies like this anymore. Norton is pretty good playing the tech dummy billionaire, though the narrative around his character is pretty on the nose. I mean, I get the parallel they're drawing between him and people like Bezos, and more specifically Elon Musk. How people criticize him for not really creating or inventing anything as much as he financially backs the ideas of smarter people, and then he props up said ideas as his own. It's clear that Miles is the sort to stand on the shoulders of giants and call himself tall. But that fact has little to do with the final revelation of the film. Benoit roasts Norton for being an idiot because his plan was so stupid, but if it was so stupid, why didn't you figure it out earlier? I mean, he does say at some point, "I'm really bad at dumb things." But by the time Benoit is positively confounded by Miles' idiocy, we already knew that he forged the napkin to make it look like his idea. It seemed pretty obvious that the person who has the most to gain from killing Andy and stealing the real napkin was Norton. And your excuse for not figuring this out sooner was that Norton is the dum-dum? You trying to blame shift here?
Now you blame shift?
The fake mystery was way more elaborate than the real one. I don't know how you figured that shit out way faster than this. But by far the weirdest scene in this movie, the scene that made me laugh out loud, was the final scene with Janelle Monáe and the clear rock thing. So at the end, Miles burned the napkin and therefore destroyed any evidence that he killed Andy, who really came up with the idea for the company. Realizing they've lost, Benoit hands Helen a piece of clear, the unstable fuel source that Miles has unethically developed, and walks out. Then Helen proceeds to trash the living room, set a fire, and throw the clear into the fire, blowing up the entire glass onion. And also the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa was there too. When this happened, and don't get me wrong, I did enjoy this movie, but when this happened, I was like, fuck you, movie. You mean to tell me that Benoit Blanc basically gave this woman a grenade and said, blow all these niggas up? That's your plan? What if everyone died? Cause I thought that everyone died. How did everyone not fucking die? Then for some reason, Helen attempting to murder them all gave the group a conscience, and they decided to rat out Miles. You know, the thing they actively decided not to do less than a minute ago. Then Janelle Monáe walks over to Daniel Craig, and for some reason, the first thing he says isn't, I thought you were dead. Do you want to go to the hospital immediately? Instead, we get a shot of Helen looking like Mona Lisa, but not really because Janelle Monáe isn't that good of an actress. If you want an actor to convey 6 different emotions in one look, you get Zoe Saldana. You always get Zoe Saldana. Then Benoit Blanc tells Janelle, let's go home or something, and the movie ends. Such a weird way to end a movie. Before I get out of here, I suppose I should say where this ranks for me among Johnson's movies. So here we go. Number 6, Glass Onion. Didn't take long to figure out where it lands. There's a lot to like, and I probably like it just as much as the first one, but the cast is noticeably not as impressive as the first Benoit Blanc installment. Number 5, Knives Out. Fun whodunit with a great cast. Check out my review for more thoughts on that. I'm not talking more about that. Number 4, Looper. Interesting time travel premise with a neo-noir style and features Johnson directing his best leading man in the best action sequences he's ever filmed. A man crush? You talking about? I don't have a man crush on Joseph Gordon. Number 3, Star Wars The Last Jedi. I talked about this in a video that you can watch here, but I love this movie. Finn's storyline is absolute trash, but the story with Luke, Rey, and Kylo is wonderfully executed and features 2 of my favorite Star Wars moments ever. I'm talking about this one and this one. Oh shit, I forgot about this one. Oh my god, that was so cool. Number 2, Brick. For a long time, this movie was in my top 5. It's still one of my top 3 favorite JGL performances, and the style is so unique that I still haven't seen anything that does this kind of movie better, and this came out almost 20 years ago. The amateurish nature takes away from it a little bit, but considering what these guys had to work with, it is still a stone cold masterpiece.
Isn't an adventure story.
Well, it totally is.
Number 1, Brothers Bloom. Brick is a masterpiece, but this movie is my favorite Rian Johnson film. I do recognize that it's because it's a very personal film for me. If I were to make another list called autobiographical films that I didn't make but are totally an allegory for my life, this would be like in the top 3. It's all about honesty, creativity, loneliness, and working with your brother. And I work with my brother, so yeah, this movie touches a specific place in my... What's the opposite of a funny bone? Sad cartilage? It's still a funny movie, though. It's just a lot more balanced than the Benoit Blanc films. It also has a hyper-realistic style, so when things get really goofy, it totally falls in line with the tone of the rest of the movie, and gets the best performances out of an ensemble cast that is comparable to Knives Out, but just a little smaller. Hey, there's an Avenger in this movie. Glass Onion is a pretty fun time. It has some laugh-out-loud moments. The way the plot unfolds is intriguing. And as much as I shat on the explosion part of the ending, it was still pretty satisfying. But I just didn't walk away loving it. I'm glad that other people are enjoying it. Johnson got a lot of flack over Jedi, so it's good to see that the guy can churn out a couple crowd-pleasing popcorn flicks. That being said, though, I mean... you see where it ranks. Even though I felt the same way about Knives Out, it's not necessarily the genre that bothers me. There are other murder mystery comedies like Nice Guys or Only Murders in the Building that I really, really dig. But this one just didn't stick the landing for me. A lot of people are praising this as a masterpiece, but it just feels like another Netflix movie, like a funny Shimmer Lake or some such shit. Remember that? Remember Shimmer Lake? That was pretty good. Even though Johnson at his worst is still better than most directors at their very best, The Glass Onion is a little shy of being mentioned in the same breath as the Mona Lisa. My ranking, I didn't love it. Go watch The Brothers Bloom. Seriously, how many times do I have to say it? Just go watch it. Alright, that's it for this review, and Quantumania is right around the corner. Johnny Majors is gonna beat up a bunch of white people for Black History Month. It's gonna be great. And speaking of Black History Month, keep your eye out for the Drunkies, the first Drunk Banthas Awards. But until next time, stay safe, my little disruptors, and may the Force be with you.